So I created this slideshow to sort of help put things in a reasonably organized manner regarding the perceptions of sending things to the on the deadline. Think of this as your deadlines for your school assignments, for your undergraduate assignments, the assignments that you're going to have next semester for whatever classes you may be in. Most of the time, myself included, we don't look at these until the deadline has passed. The same is true of these graduate committees, these graduate admission committees. They are 100%. They are 100% not go looking at them until after the deadline. Because it's not fair. It's not fair for somebody who is working within the confines that you give them, the deadline, January 15th, for example. Who cares if you got it in on the 5th? That person should have an equitable chance, without looking at their materials, all things equal, as somebody who gets it in on the 15th. So I'm not entirely sure where this perception among undergraduate students came from, but yeah, they're not looking at it. They're not looking at it. So apply away what application materials that you actually need here, right? So you need to have good grades. You need to have good grades. And get as much statistics as possible. Even if you aren't doing anything statistically based, statistics are the lifeblood of our communication in science communication. So if you were going to be a part of the scientific community, whether that's a researcher or a practitioner, you just got to know statistics. And I know it's a vile, hated class. Research methods combined with that too. But unfortunately, we got to do it. You just got to do it, you know? And if you have the time, think and you are eligible, think about doing an honors thesis so you can do some research. Okay. But if you're not doing anything research-wise, that may or may not be a good use of your time. A lot of the times 3.0 is cutoff. A lot of times 3.0 is a cutoff. And it's perhaps one of the first cutoffs for the trash pile. And the trash pile is the discard pile, okay, or the rejection pile. If you don't pass the GPA cutoff, you will likely get a pro forma rejection letter pretty quickly. Okay. Transcripts. Okay. So where have you taken college classes? They need to see all of them. So if you took one college class in Podunk Community College, you're going to have to get that transcript for Podunk Community College, even if it was for one class. So, and even if your undergraduate half of your undergraduate degree was at a community college, and the second half was at a 4-year college, like you're just gonna have to do it. Sometimes, and Explore program requirements for this, sometimes they'll accept unofficial transcripts at the time of the application. Like you could just upload it as a PDF. You download it from your portal or whatever. Like for my students, it would be something like Sonus. You would download it from that as a PDF, and then you would upload it to your application. And if you get accepted, it'll be like a conditional acceptance upon receipt of an official transcript. And so that's when you would have to pay for it. This saved me a lot of money when I was doing my 19 schools because I didn't have to get official transcripts for every single application. I still had to do it for a lot of them, but it was really good that I did not have to do that for all of them, because then it would have been somewhere around $2,500. So yeah. If you have any issues with this, you can chat with me about it, or definitely check with your registrar. And so if you're not a student of Eureka, check with your registrar on that one. And be aware that, these are all handled by humans. These are human requests. Humans have to lay eyes on official transcripts because it's an official record of the registrar. So the registrar has to put their seal on it. So these are being handled by people. Recognize that this is probably going to take time, and it takes time in regular life. Consider that it takes far more time in pandemic times. Okay. Letters of recommendation. Really important. Really important. Okay. Most of the time, 3 is what you're looking at. Sometimes 2, sometimes 4. So you have to really know who your letter writers are going to be right away. One of the ways that you can choose your letter writers is, if you're like having difficulty with that third one, then you talk to the best one. So, for example, if you know me the best, you come talk to me, and then we can talk about who your second or third one is going to be and what that's going to look like, because you want your number one letter writer to give you the best letter. Okay. To give you that best letter. And it's mostly an electronic process, and it's usually done in the middle of the application process. Names, email addresses. The system will send an email to the letter writer. They'll upload a letter, probably, click some boxes on a 1 to 5 scale or a 1 to 10 scale or whatever, or something like that. It's actually the quantitative scales are really dumb. I understand that they're trying to just get a quick quant score for everyone's recommendation, but honestly, it's not standardized and they're mostly garbage. And for confidentiality purposes, to write the strongest letter, and I am in the confidentiality group here. I know there are some instructors and professors and people in the opposite group where they'll be like, I don't care, you can see your letter before I send it. I request people waive their rights to the part of FERPA, the Family Education Parental Rights Act, or something like that. Something, I don't remember what P stands for. Privacy. Family Education Privacy Rights Act, or something like that. FERPA. Anyways, there's a specific subset about, there's a specific question about waiving your rights to access this particular, because a letter of recommendation becomes a letter or a record in your education record, federally speaking. And so if you didn't waive your rights, then you would be able to view this letter because that's part of FERPA. But most letter writers that I know require confidentiality and for people to waive this. And this is generally speaking shown to the faculty member in the portal that they, when they get the email, they click a link and they go into the portal. All right, things to take. Your GRE, Graduate Records Exam. Now, one of the positive things that have come out of the pandemic is that a lot of schools are not not requiring them, which is really freaking awesome, because I hate the GRE. I hate it with a gigantic passion. I hate it so much. And so they're not requiring it, which is killer. There are options and I'll go over the graduate, the main GRE. There is some good news about the subject tests too. The subject tests, there are 6 subject tests, I believe. I have it on a slide. So let's talk about the first GRE, the main GRE, the general test is what it's called. So it's a computer adaptive test. So it starts you off with a couple of easy ones in each of the sections, and then if you get those right, they'll get harder. If you get the harder ones wrong, it will bring you back. It'll bring you back to a little bit of level, and the more it does this adaptation, the more it affects your score. So what you want to do is you want to get the easy ones right, get moved up to the harder ones, and still get those right, and not get too many hard ones wrong, if that makes sense. So we've got the verbal test to analyze and evaluate written material. So it's the reading comprehension test, text completion, and sentence equivalence. These are super annoying verbal tests. The quantitative is problem solving with arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analyses. So statistics, reading graphs, that sort of thing. So we have quantitative comparison. I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail with some extra tips for you on the next slide. Numeric entry, so this is computation, and then data interpretation, and so these are like graphs and stuff. So we've got multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, algebra, so finding x, geometry, shapes, and data analysis, stats. Okay, so you should have some stats understanding. You should be able to know how to read a graph. And then there's the analytic writing, which is critical thinking and analytical writing. So you have to, I think you have to do 2 written essays in prose, so complete sentences in paragraph form. So there's one where you analyze an issue. That should say an issue, not and issue. Great. And then you have to take apart somebody else's argument, I think are the 2 prompts. Study for the test, obviously. So when you study for it, I don't know what a CLEP exam is. Don't pay for any kind of courses. ETS actually has a really good set of free materials on ets.org. So honestly, I would do that. And if you do want to pay for something, then I would get a book from Kaplan or Princeton, because they have hard materials in them. Like the GRE words that you can break out into flashcards, which is nice. That's how I had to. That's how I learned my GRE words. Consider taking the test in the summer before, or at least the early fall. So I think I have up here. Don't do anything later than October, but that's part of the later part of these slides. No, it is not. The GRE is not like a placement test. This is according to ETS and proponents of the GRE. The GRE is meant to test basic knowledge of an undergraduate. So these are things that you should have learned and retained as an undergraduate. So that's what the GRE is. A good program website, going back to programs for a second, a good programs website will give you some cutoffs. The scoring is a little bit different from when I took it a decade ago. It's now anywhere from 130 points to 170 points, and you get a 0 to 6 for writing. And I think, generally speaking, if there is a writing cutoff, it's 4. So you need to get a 4, 5, or a 6. And then as far as other cutoffs go, that really depends on the program. Top tier programs have higher cutoffs. Lower tier programs have lower cutoffs. That's just how it works. Test is now $205. Yeah. But that cost also gives you 4 schools to send the report, the official report to. If you are applying to more than 4 schools and they all require the GRE, then you're going to be paying $27 for each additional school. And that was my problem. I had to pay ETS so much money just to get extra things, and it was so freaking annoying. I honestly, it probably would have been less than $1,500, maybe even less than $1,000 if it was just application and mailing fees. A good portion of that $2,000 that I said that I spent went to ETS. And they're not hurting for money. They are paying me back by me being a reader for the AP Psych test, but Far out, man. That was not cool for mid-20s Alex over here. Yeah, capitalism, Dr. Young, capitalism. It's cool. As today is a testament about capitalism. Okay, moving on. Is this a retroactive sending, or do you have to have the schools picked out when you take the GRE? You do not have to have the schools picked out when you take it. So you do get the first 4 schools regardless. I think you need to know at least one when you do it. But the good news is, and I have some good news about it. So there is a fee reduction program. So that's the first one. So look if you're eligible for it. I was not eligible for the fee reduction program. So bleh, it is what it is. It's in the past. Now, they have specifically made arrangements regarding COVID. And this is specifically for the United States and Canada. And I believe Mexico. I'm not entirely sure, but it's definitely the US and Canada. You can take it at home. I don't know all of the details about it because I was just looking at it really quickly. But that's amazing. Being able to take it at home. That's awesome. I believe you have to have a webcam and you are going to be proctored. So you're not going to be able to like cheat. But you can take it at home. I think that's really cool. So there's that. Subject tests. So these are the 6 tests. Did you have to take the physics, Dr. Young? I'm curious. I did not have to take the psychology one because honestly, the psychology one is a history of psych test. It's mostly multiple choice. All of these are done on paper. They have not ported. In 10 years, ETS has not ported to paper or to computer. So these are not adaptive tests. They are basic multiple choice tests. And I think there was I think maybe there's some fill in the blank, but mostly it's multiple choice. I think that's the bulk of the test. Only take if it's required. And honestly, in psychology, it's probably going to be only required by clinical programs. And here's the really freaking good news. They only offer them in September, October, and April each year. But here's the deal. They canceled them for September and October of last year. So that means any program that was requiring the subject test could not use that in their application process this round. They had to knock it out. And for some programs, this might be a temporary change. For other programs, this might be a permanent change. The next testing will be in April 2021. Whether that happens or not, I think they're going to have to cancel that one too, to be honest with you. That's the assumption. The assumption that ETS is making is that health conditions are going to improve. I honestly don't think, because the ETS relies on testing locations. Testing locations tend to be universities. And I don't think universities are going to want that liability, even if they are somewhat protected by ETS for handling the tests. I don't think these universities and colleges are going to want any of that if we're on the same track of vaccinations that we are right now, which is behind schedule. So, yeah, subject tests are out of here. Abolish the GRE. Full stop. Okay. I'm going to skip the rank ordering of faculty because this only matters if you're doing research, and especially if the research is the apprenticeship model and not a group a group acceptance model. So skip. So you got to do the application. Okay. Be detail oriented when you're filling it out. Definitely be detail oriented. Do not do them quickly. Do not do them at the last minute. Okay. And like I said, be aware if there are 2 applications. CV, really important document. Curriculum vitae. Okay. Academic path. I would choose a CV because CVs are great. On my website, you can find my CV. It is current. There's even a date at the bottom as when I was last updated. I constantly update it. And so if you want to see what a CV looks like, definitely take a look at that. Have lots and lots of people read it over. Because if you forget something, they can tell you, hey, what about that presentation that you did? And you'd be like, oh, crap, I did that. So anybody who was in my research methods class last semester can use the research symposium that they did to present their research from the class on their CV. Like, it's total, even though it was for a grade, they did a research symposium. I think that's fine. And keep documenting. Even if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, maybe not if you're a freshman, like give it a little bit, but sophomores, I think is a good place to start crafting a CV. And if you're going into a more academic master's program and definitely a doctoral program, you'll want a CV and not a resume. They are definitely different. CVs are as long as they need to be. A resume should be a page. It's an important document. I can't stress it enough. Personal statement. Now, this is a document that you are going to have significant amounts of trouble writing. Everyone does. They suck. I contend that it's the hardest piece of writing that you'll ever have to do. And that may be because writing about yourself is always difficult, at least in my opinion. And you may feel the same way for those of you who've at least attempted it. So, I mean, consider that. What else did I write here? Oh, yeah. And more or less what admissions committees and faculty are looking for in this particular piece of writing is, can you write? And that's secondary to what did you write about? Okay. Have loads and loads of people read this, not just the one person who is acting as your advisor, whether that's the academic advisor or research advisor or anything like that. Have lots of people read it. Have your lay family and friends read it. People that are not even related to your psych degree read it, because they will give you an outside perspective on that. Definitely weigh your advisor's comments and suggestions and edits more highly than anyone else that you seek input from, but definitely get more than the one person's input. Okay. And if you're applying to a lot of different places and maybe a smattering of different kinds of programs, degree programs, then tailor it. Don't just have one statement for everything, because that's not what they're looking for. Okay. So here's a particular prompt that you might run into. Okay. Please provide a personal statement describing your special interests and professional goals. Include a rank ordered list of the 3 faculty members with whom you most want to work. So this would be like a rank. This would be an apprenticeship model for a Ph.D. program, for example. It may not be the same for a master's program or a Psych program or an Ed.D. program or an MSW program. Like, it's not going to be the same. Here's another one. This should be approximately 500 words and address your rationale for attempting advanced study. Be sure to include previous research experience, or you can replace research there. You can replace that with work experience or practicum experience, internship experience, whatever, and how you became interested in pursuing advanced training and how you feel the program will guide you in that pursuit. So the second one is a little bit more malleable to all the different kinds of degree programs that you would write. Now, 500 words is a word limit, right? And that's a really hard limit to keep things in. If there is no word limit, no more than 2 pages, single spaced. I mean, try to get it double spaced as possible. Try to get it as double spaced as possible, because that would be my biggest thing is consider who you're writing it for and consider who's reading it and how many of them they're reading. Okay. Always have that in the back of your mind. Who your reader is, who your audience is. Okay. You don't want to be blabbing on and on and on and about non-relevant stuff. Even if you might think they're relevant, somebody else might not think they're relevant. And so I would be hesitant to suggest that. Okay. I'm going to skip that one. Other considerations include things like costs, time. Okay. How much time you need to do for all the things.